Welcome to the Growth Room with David Daniels. Today, we're incredibly fortunate to have Keith Knutter, the visionary CEO of Equity Acceleration Partners. Keith, with his master's from Charleston Southern, is a lauded strategic, operational, profitability, and sales consultant to residential and commercial contracting businesses. Today, we'll be diving into his unparalleled approach to business consulting and exploring the significant trends he's observing in the industry. Keith, it's a pleasure to have you. How are you today?
I'm doing well, David. Thanks for that. Man, that was a mouthful you got there. I got to live up to that introduction now. Man, you put
No
the
doubt.
pressure on. So, yeah, let's
No
go.
doubt. No doubt. Well, can you share a little bit about your background and your role at Equity Acceleration Partners?
For sure. So I'll start with my last name, and nobody ever gets it right, and that's okay. So it's Knutter. It's a Norwegian thing. It's all
Okay.
good.
I'm
Like I
sorry.
said, nobody ever gets it right. Sometimes I even forget how to pronounce it. So we Norwegians, we love our consonants.
No doubt.
Any case, so in terms of my background, I spent close to 30 years in management consulting, working in very large multinational, multi-billion dollar consultant firms and startup niche boutique consultancies as well. So everything from working with Anderson Consulting back in the day, pre-Accenture, worked for another IT consulting firm called Cyber back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Ran a very large division of that billion dollar enterprise. So and in the boutique space, working with a lot of corporate clients, including Salesforce, Cisco, Google back in the day, SanDisk, a lot of tech companies when I was in the Bay Area. So, I've had a chance to experience a lot in consulting, like I say, coming up through the ranks and kind of converging management consulting best practices with technology. That was a big part of my career early on, especially when I lived and worked in the Bay Area through the late 90s and 2000s. Then about, um, I guess, 6 years ago, or 5 years ago, I guess, after completing a second exit successfully, decided that two things. I wanted to move to a warmer climate, which I've done here in Hilton Head Island, in South Carolina. And the other was to, since my wife and I are, empty nesters, really just kind of peel back and continue to work with clients, helping them build, scale, be successful, all that. Because that's after running very large consulting organizations with, you know, 1,000 or so direct reports and so forth, you kind of get back to, okay, what do I really love about consulting? And what do I really love is helping people grow and change and being part of that journey with them. So I decided, yeah, I want to get back to that, get back to my roots a little bit. And so I ended up connecting with a gentleman who had started a fairly new company at the time, first time CEO he was. And he was really focused on the contracting and construction space.
Okay.
And that was an interesting area because I'd never really had much exposure to that. I'd worked a lot in tech, I'd worked a lot in healthcare and government agencies, et cetera. Not so much in consulting, or excuse me, in contracting. So I thought this is an interesting challenge. So let's take that on. And at the time, he didn't have a whole lot of background in building and scaling a consulting firm, professional service. It was a good match. And so I was there for a little over 4 years as the chief operating officer, helped build that company. And, it was great. I mean, just a really tremendous experience. And I think this time last year, he and I kind of sat down and decided we were going to go our separate ways. He wanted to kind of do his thing. I wanted to do my thing, which is basically take that management consulting background that I, kind of shared with you
Hmm.
and continue to help contractors and construction firms more than just sales, more than just growing their revenue, which is important for sure. But what I had come to find out working in this sector over the past 4 years is, the financial uh, part of running their businesses or the marketing and the operations. I mean, those four components, a lot of contractors need help in all of those areas: sales, marketing, operations, and finance. And so I thought, you know what? let's do this. Let's really just kind of blow this thing up. Um, put out a new brand, leverage a lot of the relationships that I had built over the past 4 years, and expand the offering. So it doesn't conflict very much at all with the previous company, but
Right.
really just kind of take that and run with it. And it's been a great journey for the past year. We're literally just about to celebrate our 1 year anniversary here at Equity Acceleration Partners.
No
So
doubt.
I know that was a long answer to your question. Hopefully answered it.
No, you
So
did a great job, and congratulations on the anniversary.
for
It's
sure,
awesome
thank
to
you, thank you.
obviously be in business for yourself. Tell me,
Okay.
what does a typical day look like for you? Your clients, are you seeing them all face to face, or do you work with them virtually, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I'm still waiting for that typical day. To be
Right,
honest with
right,
you, every day is a little bit different, which I actually like. That suits kind of my personality, by the way. No, to be honest, the a lot of the work is remote because
Okay.
I do have clients all over the country, and that doesn't scare me. I've been doing remote sort of coaching, training, etc., for a long time, even pre-COVID. So, the whole working remote and Zoom and Teams and Google Meet and all that, that comes kind of second nature to me.
Nice.
However, I still do a lot of on-site work, especially early on in a in a new engagement. So I can kind of see the facility, get to sit face to face with either the owner or the management team or both, because nothing replaces that. I mean,
Right.
nothing replaces literally sitting in the room with somebody and just kind of getting a read on their face and their body language and so forth. But typically after that kind of that initial meeting, a lot of the work is done remotely, and I'm a big fan. It allows me to be able to live and work in a place like this,
No
and still be able to provide good, valuable service to clients.
no doubt. No doubt. Over the years, what major shifts have you seen in the consulting industry?
Hmm. Uh, I have seen a lot of a lot of people who think they want to be coaches or consultants who are, I don't mean this to be disparaging at all.
I
So
got
I'm hopeful that this will come off as positively as I mean it to. I think there are some people who have jumped into consulting and coaching that are really just kind of looking for their next job, to be honest with you.
you. Right.
Um, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. What I have found for myself personally, because I kind of challenged myself early in my career as to whether or not I wanted to have a full-time day-to-day, kind of that typical day sort of thing,
Right.
or did I prefer to work in an environment where I could be, different challenges on different days? And those are two different, very different type of work environments. I prefer the latter. I
Right.
prefer having multiple engagements, doing different things, being challenged by different situations, et cetera. And I've had the day to day. I've had the C-level day to day, with large teams, et cetera. And I like that, and
Right.
and I had success with that. I just prefer this. This matches my natural, personality, if you will. And so I've seen a lot of people come and go, basically,
Right.
to answer your question.
No,
I think more recently, there's been a lot of, uh, to no one's surprise, a lot of AI that has been introduced into this world, um, which I think is on net positive. I think some people are maybe overusing it
right.
to some extent, and I think it is going to have an impact on consulting and coaching for sure. I tell you, I use it quite a bit for a lot of different things. It doesn't replace what I do,
No
but it
doubt.
helps me do what I do faster and at scale. And I love that. And so, from that standpoint, that's a fairly significant change that I've seen, again, over the past year or so. So those would be the kind of the two things. A lot of players coming in and out, and obviously the expansion of use of AI in this sector.
Cool. Cool. Let me ask you, as far as the business is concerned, what's working well for you right now, and possibly what's anything that could be deemed as frustrating.
Uh, what's working well right now? I would say I have more demand than I have supply.
Gotcha.
Seriously. Part of that is just building. the relationships that I've built over the past 4 or 5 years in the construction and contracting space. There's a huge need for the type of service that I personally provide, which is again really focused on getting businesses ready for either themselves to be acquired by private equity or maybe another contracting firm, or helping them scale to the level where they can start acquiring or expanding into other markets. And so there's a huge demand for that right now because there's so much activity, so much M&A activity that's going on in the space with private equity acquisitions and roll-ups and so forth. And it's just that's the challenge for me right now, is just kind of keeping up with demand, which is probably the frustration also, to be honest with you. So, I mean, on the resource side, up until recently, finding people who had the right skill set and the right passion to be able to work with as a colleague, as a teammate, to add to here has been a challenge
Gotcha.
up until recently. So, and I think I may have solved that, hopefully, knock on wood. But yeah, that's kind of been the upside and the downside, if you will, over the past year.
How'd you solve that issue with the finding someone that could do as good a job as you?
Well, I set a low bar. So, uh, but to answer your question, networking, just kind of re-engaging some folks. LinkedIn has been a huge help. I will tell you, in no uncertain terms. My previous company, the founder did a lot of the business building of that company on Facebook, which I totally love and respect and so forth. I'm just not a huge Facebook user. Just maybe it's my generation or whatever. I don't know. I gravitate more towards LinkedIn, and I have had a chance to, with the dust settling a little bit, just after the getting the doors open and working through a bunch of clients, literally from day one, I've had a chance to invest more time and energy on doing some outreach on LinkedIn and, kind of either building new connections or reaffirming some of the connections that I had. And it's been great. So part of that networking, part of that connection building, I was invited to participate in a group that is fairly new, that is comprised of fractional C-level folks.
Right.
And I will tell you, that connection kind of happened by accident. To be honest, it wasn't planned. But I'm really, really grateful that I got invited to be part of this group. There's about 50 people that are in it. It's a really an amazing collection of super talented people that do a lot of fractional work. I'm not in the fractional space anymore, so now I think I found a pool of people that, as I continue to kind of get to know them, potential collaborators, potential partners. That's been really gratifying to make those connections.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot more and more every day about fractional CMOs, CEOs,
Yep.
COOs. So
Yep.
it definitely is a new pool, a newer pool that a lot of people are taking advantage of. So that's
It
great.
is, and I think that's when you asked David a little bit ago about just kind of the changing market,
Hmm.
um, especially in consulting and so forth. I think there's probably more opportunities for fractional engagements, which are
Right,
different from consulting and certainly different from coaching. We don't have to get into the weeds on all that, but
right,
I'm a big fan of fractional engagements. I've done them before. I Again, my preference is to focus on really kind of deal flow and the M&A
hmm,
piece, and just kind of matching up good quality sellers with well qualified buyers and making that happen. That's kind of its own skill set.
no doubt.
Having people who can sit in the seat on an interim or a fractional basis in sales or marketing or finance or operations, having there seems to be more demand from companies at looking at those sorts of roles as
Right,
opposed to hiring a full-time CMO or full-time CFO. Having a fraction, especially in this sector where you're dealing with, you know, $3, $5 million, you know, maybe as much as $10 million before you start really jumping in full on with full time. Fractional is a great option for
right.
a lot of consultants to be able to go in and be billable, deliver value. And, for those who are looking for a full-time thing, ultimately, yeah, there's that path as well.
No doubt, no doubt. Right now, what metrics are you most focused on improving with Equity Acceleration Partners?
Internally,
Yep.
um, yeah, just, revenue growth. So, for me, it's all about revenue growth. My objective is to replicate the success that I was part of at the previous company, but just do it faster. Getting to a level where, um, coming out of that company, 6 years in, we were doing, X number of dollars. I expect that Equity Acceleration Partners will do at least that in about half the time.
Right.
So that's what I'm driving towards. And that's part of the reason why I've been so focused on finding good resources, good,
Right.
good, colleagues, partners, et cetera, because I'm only one person
Mhm.
to drive the train. I can only do so much. So I'm not getting any younger, man, as
Right.
my wife keeps telling me.
That's
So
always.
finding good quality people who can deliver the same sort of value with the same passion, that's what's ultimately going to get us to, where I want to be in the next, probably 18 to 20.
No doubt, no doubt. Will that revenue growth come because of volume or mainly because the longer you're in it, the more you'll be able to charge?
Both, I would say.
Okay, okay,
I'd say we have a competitive pricing structure. I don't know that we are charging our our highest value, put it that
right,
way. We have to because Equity Acceleration Partners is, new kid on the block or relatively new. Um, we have to be a little bit more aggressive in our pricing, and our gross margins are not quite where I want them to be because I'm not a big fan of discounting, but I am a big fan of including a lot of value add into the
okay,
service offering. So that
okay.
affects our margins a little bit. And I expect that as we continue to, build traction, build more case studies, et cetera, we'll improve both. We'll improve both the engagement rates and the profit margin on the back end.
No doubt, no doubt. Makes sense. Okay, last question. If you
Sure.
had a magic wand to fix just one thing in business that's slowing you down at all, what would that one thing be?
Give me more time in the day, man.
26 hours a day,
I was gonna
please.
say, man, this 24 is a constraint. Even 168 hours in the week, I'm pushing right up against it. No, in all sincerity, the magic wand I think would be just really good, solid people. Because ultimately, that's the product that we offer
Right.
is the expertise. And so having the ability to be able to deliver at scale, I think has been the constraint thus far.
Right.
Now, does that mean that we can't focus in other areas of outreach and business development and so forth? Sure, we always can. Um, but in my experience in again working with very large consulting organizations and some of the smaller boutiques, just to kind of put a whole bow on this, it's not about the advertising. Um, you know, you don't really build a successful consulting practice spending a ton of money on digital ads, digital marketing. And I know this because of experience
Right.
without
Right.
going into the weeds. A lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it is referral. It's leveraging existing relationships, et cetera. So that's why, again, the focus for me is on adding good quality people that have, the educational experience, the work experience, the connections, et cetera, because that's instant revenue right there.
Okay.
You want to talk about being able to scale. And by the way, I say the same thing to my clients in construction and contracting. I don't care what they're building. They can be building roofs, they can be doing amazing landscaping, et cetera. If they are serious about scaling their business, it's always about the people
That's it.
that they bring on. Until the AI bots take over everything, it's still always about the people, man. Having good quality people. And that's especially true in consulting. So the better quality of people that you have, the money will follow the expertise. So I am very happy about that. So that's my magic wand in terms of, if I could just clone a bunch of really, really outstanding coaches and subject matter experts. That would be amazing.
No doubt, no doubt. And I think that'll work out for you, and you'll find some
Knock on
other
wood.
some other Keiths that will be able to tag along with you
Even
and help
better.
everything
I'm
go
shooting for
on.
higher than that. So no, and like I said, the group.
Self-depreciating, like my golf game.
No, exactly, yeah, exactly right. So no, I expect good things, really good things to
No doubt.
happen. Even the economy's a little uncertain. You got a lot of different things going on and whatnot. But at the end of the day, clients need help. They
Right.
need, and look, the studies have shown that customers or clients who invest in coaching typically on average get a 7x return on investment.
That's it.
7x. I
That's
mean,
it.
that's been documented.
Yep.
And I believe it because I've seen it myself. And that's on average. Some are going to be a little lower, some are exponentially higher than 7x. But when you have that sort of value proposition going into an engagement, the the sales cycle really basically sells itself. So
Right.
long as you've got good quality people that can deliver on that 7x expectation. That's
Right.
why I'm pretty confident about the growth prospects for us, especially now that I think tapped into a good pool of people to be able to be that are better than I am in a
No
lot of
doubt.
different ways for sure.
No doubt. No doubt. Keith, your insights were awesome. Really appreciate you being here, and all the luck
Happy,
to you in the future.
of course, happy to share. Thanks, David.
Thank
Appreciate the time.